Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar dedicated to Cloud 2. We will be giving you a brief overview of the possibilities offered by this contract, as well as presenting some use cases. All participants are muted by default, but if you have a question, there is a question window available, so feel free to use it and we will try to answer most of your questions at the end of the session. So before we start, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Gaetan. I'm here together with my colleague Anthony. We are both account manager dedicated to the European institutions and agencies. So we will be your main point of contacts for any cloud project under Cloud 2. We also have the pleasure to have Marilena. So Marilena is from the European Commission and part of the Cloud Broker team. She will be here as well at the end of the session to answer your questions. So what's on the agenda for today? So we will start by introducing AWS, what the cloud is, its benefits, what our infrastructure looks like, and why customers rely on AWS to achieve their business goals. Then Anthony will explain you why the European institutions are adopting the cloud, how it started with Cloud One, what are the lessons learned, and present the European Commission digital and cloud strategy. We will then go through some use cases from projects we have carried out within the European institutions and agencies to give you an idea of what has been done so far and the possibilities offered by the clouds. We'll then introduce you to the Cloud 2 frame contract, the various DPSs, explain the services offered by the Digit, which will act here as a cloud broker. To conclude, we will talk about AWS enablement, how we can help you in your cloud journey, and the different services you have at your disposal in Cloud 2, namely training, immersion day, enterprise supports. We'll also briefly touch about our partner landscape. So as a reminder, if you have any question, please use the question window and we will be covering those questions at the end. So what is cloud computing? You probably know what traditional infrastructure look like. Servers, switches, storage, all of this equipment that you must provision, manage, and secure. In this model, you pay for everything upfront. Nothing is on demand. There are significant long-term contracts. You undergo a long planning process to determine what you need, buy that, set up, and hope you have planned correctly for the future. There is a lot of internal administration to get this right. With cloud computing, this is completely different. You turn things on as you need them, and you only pay for what you use. All the resources that you have in your on-premises data center, you can have them with one click of a button to run application reliably, securely, and at scale. The cloud can make you save money and innovate faster. So why are organizations adopting cloud computing? First is to trade capital expenses for variable expenses. With the cloud, you only pay when you consume resources and pay only for how much you consume. You don't have to invest in data centers and servers before you know how you're going to use them. And you will be able to do so for a lower price because usage from millions of customers is aggregated in the cloud. So providers such as AWS can achieve higher economies of scale. With the cloud, you can also stop guessing capacity. Most probably today, when you make a capacity decision prior to deploying an application, you often end up either sitting on expensive idle resources or dealing with limited capacity. With cloud computing, these problems go away. You can access as much or as little capacity as you need and scale up and down as required with only a few minutes notice. By going to the cloud, you will also increase speed and agility. In a cloud computing environment, new IT resources are only a click away, which means that you reduce the time to make those resources available to your developers from weeks to just minutes. This results in a dramatic increase in agility for the organization. since the cost and time it takes to experiment and develop is significantly lower. Finally, with the cloud, you can go global in minutes. You can easily deploy your application in multiple regions around the world with just a few clicks. This means you can provide lower latency and a better experience for your customers at a minimal cost. Maybe you're wondering how Amazon, who is today relying on AWS for its cloud, like millions of other customers, get to the cloud. In fact, it all started in the year 2000, when Amazon was struggling with scalability problems. Those issues forced us to build some solid internal systems capable to deal with our growth, and we were quite successful. In 2006, we realized that what we built and had developed could also serve other companies. So we started AWS by proposing compute services in the cloud, and this in 6 different regions. Over the time, we continued to expand and to add additional services, such as storage, database, analytics, machine learning, etc. Most of these services are used today by Amazon for our e-commerce site to recommend products to our customers, for example, or in our warehouse to optimize the trajects of our robots. We continuously innovate and add new features based on the feedback received from our customers. So let's quickly present to you our global infrastructure. Terminology is different from one cloud provider to another, so it's very important to understand these concepts in order to build high available applications that are compliant with your security requirements. The first concept is the concept of region. We have 22 geographical regions that are completely independent, meaning that your data stays in the regions you put in it and will never leave unless you direct it to another region. This helps you remain compliant with legal standards. You will also see that if you start using our console, every time you want to configure a service, you have to select the region in which you want to activate it. So let's focus now on Europe, which I assume is the region you are the more interested in. In Europe, we have 5 regions today, with plans to add 2 more in Italy and Spain. Looking at the region in more detail, such as Dublin, for example, as you can see on the slide, we have 3 availability zones, or AZs, in this region. AZs consist of 1 or more data centers, each with redundant power, networking, and connectivity, housed in separate facilities. AZs are located a few kilometers away from each other, interconnected with high bandwidth, low latency networking over fully redundant, dedicated metro fiber. It means that you can easily build high available applications by deploying them in multiple AZ. You can, for example, do synchronous replication of your database across AZs to make sure that there is no loss of data in case of failure in one availability zone. The last concept is the one of point of presence. This is where user access services located at AWS. Point of presence are located in most of the major cities around the world and are specifically used by CloudFront or Content Delivery Network to distribute content to end user to reduce latency. So what makes us so unique? First, it's our experience. We started in 2006 and helped many public organizations over the world migrating to the cloud. Then our service breadth and depth. We have been continually expanding our services to support virtually any cloud workload and have now more than 175 fully featured services, including compute, storage, database, networking, analytics, robotics, machine learning and artificial intelligence, IoT, just to name a few. In addition to having the greatest breadth of services, we also have the deepest functionality within those services. If you look at our database services, for example, you can choose from 15 purpose-built database engines to give you the right tool for the right job. AWS is also innovating very fast. In 2018, for example, we launched almost 2,000 new features and services, and this number is growing every year. Our global footprint, already talked about it, but the fact that we have multiple availability zones in every region gives you the possibility to build high available application within a region. In terms of pricing, we have reduced our price 80 different times since we start offering our services. We expect to continue to lower price this year and for many years to come. Finally, we have a very large community of consulting and technology partners that have the necessary certifications and are there to assist you with your projects. I will now give the hand to Anthony that will continue the presentation and will be introducing you to the cloud journey of the Commission and explain you the strategy of the Commission.
Thank you very much for this introduction, Gaëtan. Now I will focus on the cloud adoption journey of European bodies and specifically on the journey of the European Commission. I will also share some lessons learned from our work with different European bodies. If we look here at these statements, we see that actually various public sector organizations across Europe see that cloud is an enabler to make more data-driven policies and to share data between governments and from governments to users. Actually, the cloud provides key capabilities to governments. And this is why several European bodies have already started using the cloud. By working with the different EU institutions and agencies that have started their cloud adoptions, some lessons learned have been gathered. The first lesson and the key benefit is the elasticity of the cloud. The ability to scale up and down is a key benefit. For example, with COVID-19, the traffic on the ECDC websites, which are the websites for the European Center of Diseases, are hosted on AWS and has increased 30 times compared to before, and this could all be handled without any issues. Second, we see that if you want to benefit a maximum from the cloud, it's better to try to design your applications with cloud-native services, such as serverless, for example. We see a lot of applications in big data as well, and we will show you some use cases later on to highlight that. And an important point as well is to highlight that actually most organizations that have adopted the cloud believe that their risk exposure has decreased. And finally, it's key to highlight that people and processes must change and adapt. It's not only about technology. It's a lot about training your people. It's a lot about changing your organization to be able to adopt DevOps practices. If we now focus more into detail on the European Commission cloud journey, we can see that this has started in 2012, let's say 2014 with Cloud One, and then gradually first cloud use cases started. In 2018-19, we have started to build the first real cloud-native services and the first cloud-native projects where we could immediately see tremendous advantages of using the cloud for certain applications. And today, and this is the main reason why we are sitting together, we have Cloud 2 in place. So Cloud 2 is an interinstitutional framework, and it's, and now I'm speaking as AWS, probably one of the most mature cloud framework we have seen in Europe. It's really a major achievement. Gaëtan will explain Cloud 2 more into detail later on. So now I would like to focus a bit more on the driving forces behind the Cloud 2 framework, which was the cloud strategy from the European Commission and some other things. So the cloud strategy from the Commission, I think everybody knows or has read it. It says cloud first with a secure hybrid multi-cloud offering. So cloud first, any new application, you should consider to build it on the cloud to make maximum benefits of all the advantages that the cloud is providing to you and your application and your workloads. Second, multi-cloud. It's not all about AWS, it's not all about the public cloud, it's actually a mix of all these. And then it's about hybrid. So it's not all in on the cloud from day one. No, it's about for example, doing your software development on the cloud, then connecting to some workloads on which are still hosted on the data center, and then gradually moving those workloads to the cloud. So for this, it's very important that you pay attention to your hybrid infrastructure. We had a lot of challenges on that, and we are working hard with different EU bodies, and so we are actually very happy to support you if you need some more help on preparing your infrastructure for moving to the cloud from that perspective. Other forces behind the Cloud 2 framework are also the forces to move into more agile processes. You can move to a DevOps or DevSecOps model, but for that you need a framework, you need the services, you need the tools, and this is also what has actually been driving Cloud 2. Along with that goes governance and compliance. We will focus on that later on. So far the theory. Now I would like to present some use cases. This is a selection of use cases, both confidential and public. So when they are confidential, when you see confidential on the slide, that means that it's fine to share them within the European institutions and agencies, but not outside. When it says public, obviously this use case is already public, is already on the internet, and so you can share amongst all your colleagues as much as you want, and also outside the organization. So the use cases we are going to show are not an exhaustive list. It's just to give you a glimpse of what others are doing with the AWS cloud. So this first use case is from the European Commission, and it's a public use case. It's about a supply chain tracking system. In 2018, the European Commission issued a directive to trace all the tobacco products throughout the European Union to fight illicit trade. After they have issued that directive, they have selected partners to build a platform, and Dentsu Tracking was selected. Dentsu offered a solution based on AWS. It was important for the European Commission to have a platform that actually managed the needs in terms of scalability and cost, but which actually was also complying with their security and data residency requirements. Dentsu offered a serverless solution on AWS. Here you can see more details on this project. So as an AWS team, we have supported Dentsu in building and reviewing the architecture, but also assisted them with the go live of the platform. This assistance on the go live is a service that we offer to all our enterprise support customers, and which is part of all the European bodies support under Cloud 2. If we look at the timelines, you can see that the platform was built in 5 months. So we started more or less in early 2019, and it went live in May 2019 again. The metrics you see here on this slide are after more or less 6 months usage. So we have about 18 billion items managed in this platform after 6 months, and about 500,000 of economic operators connected to the system. We are now running several cost optimization exercises. As an example, I believe that in November 2019, we have assisted Dentsu to purchase a large amount of reserved instances, which will save them about 70% of the costs on the DynamoDB provision tables. The second use case is also public and is also from the European Commission, but it's going very wide. Here we present you the Big Data Test Infrastructure platform, which is a building block from the Connecting Europe facility. So the CEF is a key EU funding instrument by the Commission to promote growth across the European Union. So the BDTI platform is actually a platform that was built on AWS and is offering big data as a service to public sector organizations across the European Union. So any public sector organization in the European Union that would like to experiment, to try to build a pilot on big data, can use this platform at no cost for 6 months. There will be support from both AWS, from the Commission, from a partner to onboard them, to customize the data tools that they want, and to feel them comfortable and successful in their pilots. Here you can see more details on how it works step by step. These steps can be found also on the website, so it's public. And you have basically 8 steps. It's very straightforward. For each step you can contact both the Commission and ourselves to support you. But it starts by collecting the business needs, which is a very healthy way to start any project, I would say. To define the scope of your project, the data sources you want to use, and then to explore the big data tools catalog that is available, identify the components you want, and then finally you can request your pilot environment, which will be spin up by the Commission and will be provided to you as a public sector organization to try out. Based on its experience on the BDTI platform, the European Commission decided to also build data platform as a service, as an IT unit, and to offer that service to its other DGs and other units within DIGIT. As I said before, extracting value from data is one of the most important use cases we see from using AWS Cloud across all the EU bodies. Big data is number one, or maybe number two use case that we see across the EU bodies when building a pilot on the AWS Cloud. So, in order to industrialize that need, DigiD has created this service. So they built a solution architecture using AWS services for data scientists, data engineers, and offered it as a service across the European Commission. Here we dive a little bit more into detail on what they are really offering. So we can see that users will receive an Amazon Workspace, which is a virtual desktop as a service, which then actually is already in a safe environment, a safe and secure environment within the European Commission's network. And through these Amazon Workspaces, they can access a set of series of AWS services or solutions. So this can be a solution that connects several AWS services, and in that sense is offering data engineering tools to the data scientists. These solutions are actually framed now in an AWS service catalog. So as the name itself is saying, this is a catalog of different solutions for the data scientists that want to use the services built by DIGIT. We are now investigating the next step, which is to link this service catalog to a workflow management system like Jira. So we have connectors for that, so that requests can be created in Jira, managed by Jira, and then linked through the connector to the AWS service catalog. And with this, it's heavily reducing actually the workload on the DIGIT unit managing these services. If you have more detailed questions on this use case, please feel free to reach out to the AWS team or the European Commission's team, and we will guide you further.
So this use case is from the European Investment Fund. So the European Investment Fund is providing funds to small and medium enterprise across Europe. They work with AWS to show what the organization does for them. AWS provided the necessary infrastructure to roll out the website, which is based on Tableau. The website shows where money from the EU goes and benefits taxpayers. This business case is a good illustration of a project done with one of our ISV partner, which is Tableau in this case. Together, we provide an end-to-end data and analytics platform in the cloud. As a customer, you can decide to either install Tableau server on Amazon EC2, which is our compute services, and connect to database, or use Tableau SaaS offering, which is fully hosted on AWS. This use case is different in the sense that it's not running within the European institutions or agencies, but has been funded by the European Commission as part of the Horizon 2020 initiative. So MediSanté developed a connected care solution that allows to send patient-generated health data from patient at home directly to the cloud through the screen of a physician anywhere in the world in any clinical system. So what MediSanté developed on AWS is the IoT Hub, collecting the different parameters from medical IoT devices, such as blood pressure and glucose, ECG events, and send this information in an anonymous way to the different clinical systems. MediSanté decided to deploy this in the cloud for two reasons mainly. The first one was time to market. So they want the application to be available as soon as the developers finish developing the solution. Then they wanted to operate at a global scale. They expect to have 5 million connected devices sending data directly to the cloud to clinical systems around the world. As last business case, I will be talking about the service for developers that the European Commission launched a few years ago to address a security risk that they had with the developer workstations. Developers usually need administrator privilege on their workstation to be able to do their work. This presents a significant security risk that is very difficult and therefore costly to mitigate. So Digit creates a service for developers, providing a services in the cloud where developers can get a self-contained development workstation with testing resources in an isolated environment. This allows the European Commission to replace on-premises developer workstation with cloud-based workstations that offer improved isolation. These solutions remove security risk from on-premises infrastructure. Today, there are about 300 virtual desktops, but this number is expected to increase quite significantly in the coming months. Now that we have covered different use cases, let's go more into details about the Cloud 2 frame contract and how you should proceed in case you have a cloud project or want to request an AWS account to start deploying a first workload. The Cloud 2 procurement framework was launched last year and contains multiple DPSs. So DPS stands for Dynamic Purchasing System. So DPS is like any other procurement procedure, except that during its life, other economics operators, suppliers, may, if they meet the published criteria, join the system. So in the context of Cloud 2, the European Commission foresees to have 4 DPSs that are listed here. So DPS 1 is for multi-tenant public IaaS and PaaS services. DPS 2 will be for professional services related to cloud services. So this is where you will have the possibility to order services from partners. DPS 3 will be for community private IaaS PaaS services. And DPS 4 will be for multi-tenant SaaS, so software as a service solutions. So far, only DPS 1 has been released and several competitions have been launched already. The good news is that the first contract has been awarded to AWS, meaning that there is now a direct frame contract in place between AWS and the European institution. And the big advantage of this is that you will get better pricing for a service than in the past. The Digit is playing an important role in Cloud 2 as they will be acting as broker for the institutions and agencies. Practically, this means that first they will be managing all the procurement parts for you, As I said previously, we sign a direct contract with them. So should you need an account on AWS, you have to contact the broker and they will provide you all the details and explain you the procedure to get started. The broker will also play an advisory role. They can help you defining the optimal architecture for your project or reviewing it if you already have prepared something. They can also help estimating the cost of running your workload in the clouds. We also have solution architects at AWS that are available to help you with this if needed. Finally, the broker will also do the reporting for you. They will help you tracking your consumption and give you the possibility to be alerted in case you are consuming more than predicted. They will also consolidate all the billings for institutions and agencies. These slides give you some important information about how to get started. So you will find here the email of the broker, the link to the wiki as well, where a lot of information about Cloud2 is available. And finally, also our generic email at AWS site that you can use should you want to contact us. We work together with the broker to set up what we call a landing zone. So a landing zone helps you quickly set up a secure multi-account environment based on AWS best practices. So if you decide to opt for a landing zone, which is here an additional services offered by the broker, you will get next to the accounts that you request for your project, a SecLog accounts that will provide a single pane of glass for all the accounts that you own. Concretely, it means that you will have some baseline security safeguards and principles in place to defend you against the outside. Today, if you decide to deploy the template that we prepare with the brokers, 4 security services will be activated on your accounts: AWS Config, AWS CloudTrail, Amazon GuardDuty, and Amazon Security App. AWS CloudTrail, for example, is a service that is automatically logging and monitoring all the activities on your accounts. It enables governance, compliance, operational auditing, and risk auditing of your environment. So should you want to learn more, I suggest you to have a look at the wiki where the secure landing zone concept is explained in more details.
So now I will present you the last part, which is the AWS enablement part, which is about how AWS can support you as an EU body on your cloud adoption and on your adoption of the Cloud2 framework. So the first message I would like to give here is that although IT is at the core of every EU institution and agency, the legacy is very different sometimes, and the business objectives are very different as well. So there is no one-size-fits-all here. We have created methodologies to identify your business objectives, to assess your current workloads, to see where are the gaps, and also to see how to migrate. We can assist you with that. I'm sure that the European Commission DIGIT can also assist you with that. But it's important to identify those business objectives beforehand. For example, how long does it take today to develop an application, and how long do you would like to take it in the future? What is your metric there? What is your objective? So it's important to define these precisely before we start. If we then look at the stages of adoption, there we do see a common pattern. So even though the legacy is different, even though your objectives are different, there is a common pattern that we have seen based on our experience, based on the AWS experience. And what we see is that it's very good to start with a pilot project. This allows your people to have some hands-on experience, to understand what it is about, where are the key challenges, where are the organizational gaps, where are the technical gaps, where there's a total lack of foundation or not. So this is very important. The pilot project also allows you to have a quick win and then to go with that higher up and to free up more resources to progress on your transformation. After you have done that, you can start building the foundations. Of course, some foundation has already been done. You have a procurement tool in place. You can leverage the foundational work that has been made by the European Commission if you would like to. So, but there is still a need to build some other foundations from a networking perspective, for example, or from a skills perspective. You want to train additional people, you want to dive deeper on container services, or you want to dive deeper on AI/ML, certain technologies. So this is important to assess as well. And after that, you can do more large migrations, or maybe go for cloud native applications. This journey is quite common, and so for each step we are there to assist you, and I will show you what services we can provide there. So here you see a list of the services that we can offer to you. Probably not an exhaustive list, but it's already covering quite a lot. So first of all, in terms of trainings. So trainings are essential in all the cloud adoptions. It's something we have noticed. You need to make sure that people on board, that they are not reluctant to the change that is being introduced, and that they can feel the value for them as well. Second, there are support services. As part of Cloud 2, you are entitled to the enterprise support service level from AWS, which is the highest level we have. And so that means that you have access to all types of support services. I will go more into detail later on. Next to that, we also offer other educational events like immersion days or specialist workshops, where our solution architects can dive deep together with your technology specialist. Can be on containers, can be on security, can be on AI/ML. Actually, we can also customize immersion days. These are hands-on labs. So it's a very technical event, a full day event, where people can feel the technology and can see how easy it is to, for example, spin up containers or to use AI/ML services. Our solution architects and our technical account managers also do well-architected reviews. So if you or your partner have an architecture in mind, you can always reach out to us to have a review of that AWS architecture and to review it in terms of cost, for example. Is this the most cost-effective way to do it? Is it a secure way to do things? Is it according to the latest security best practices? Maybe there are several options that we can discuss. We are there to have these technical discussions with you. We provide technical support for pilots, also commercial support for pilots if needed. We run envisioning workshops. So envisioning workshops are workshops where we sit down with several stakeholders, so not only the technical, but also the process people, also the business people, the business owners, to work backwards from your goals, from your business objectives, to technical enablers, and then maybe to identify what are actually the things that need to change within the organization to make this happen. Cost optimizations is also something we do. So if we can find a way to drive down your cost and it makes sense, then we will do that. We are thinking long-term at Amazon. We are not thinking short-term. So we believe that on long-term, it's better to have cost-optimized architectures for all the parties involved. And last but not least, we support your consulting and technology partners, and we work together with consulting and technology partners. So I will dive deeper on that later on. But let me say a few more words on training and certification first. So we see here a few important metrics for you as an organization, like time to market, profitability, business risk, and of course employee engagement, which is very important in the public sector. All these metrics are one by one impacted by training. The more you will train the people, the faster your organization will adopt the cloud, the higher the productivity will be, the lower the risks, the operational risks and the performance risks, and it will increase employee satisfaction. These are actually facts that have been reported by third-party organizations. So as you go through change to the cloud as an organization, please pay attention to training. We have a fantastic training team at AWS that can assist you in building training paths for the different people in your organization, the different profiles you have. For example, we can create a training path for developers, we can create a training path for security people, we have generic trainings, we are there to support you. We like to build those training paths together with you, and we offer different types of trainings. You can find a lot of training content online, a lot of digital trainings, both payable but also free. There's really a lot of free training that you can provide to your people before even moving into any classroom training. The classroom trainings can be at your premise, can be at our premises, can be at third-party locations. We are flexible and we can work whatever is more convenient to you. We have our certification program, like many other cloud service providers or networking suppliers. AWS certifications are probably the most sought for certifications on the market today. They really are a tremendous asset for you as an employee, and it also they are very well built. They are not really about just learning things by heart, but it's about concepts. It's about understanding architectures. It's about understanding the services we offer and how to position them. So it's really a good milestone to ask for your people to reach certain certifications at different steps. Also, when you talk with your partners, pay attention to their level of certifications and competences. So enterprise support. AWS accounts under Cloud 2 are going hand in hand with enterprise support. So that has been defined contractually, which is a huge benefit for all the European institutions and bodies, I would say, because you get a lot of value out of that. As you can see, this is quite heavy slide. That's because there are quite a lot of services going with enterprise support. First of all, and before I forget, you have access to our support teams 24/7, obviously, and also according to the enterprise support level SLAs. So if you have critical incidents, that means that we have a response time of 15 minutes. So we are there to support you with all your operational matters, but also pre-operational matters. You have a technical account manager, which is designated to your organization. So all technical questions you may have around cases where you feel that maybe the progress is not sufficient, or we are not addressing exactly the problem as you would expect it, you can reach out to your technical account manager for questions around that. He's also there to guide you through all the tools that are actually available to you, like the Trusted Advisor on the console, or a personal health dashboard, or all the APIs, how to connect your supporting ticketing system with our support systems. That's a very important feature to automate your security and your support. You also have access to the concierge. It's a bit an old school name, but it's very handy with all your billing and account questions. Now, in terms of billing questions, I would suggest that you first reach out to your cloud broker, which would be the commission in this case. But after that, if the commission is fine and if you feel that it would be useful, you can also reach out to our concierge. An important service I would like to mention here is about IEM, Infrastructure Event Management. So this is to plan important events from your site. Maybe you want to run a hackathon, for example, and you would like to ensure that your platforms will scale adequately, or you plan a go live and you want to ensure that the architecture is secure, that is has been reviewed by specialist SAs from our side, that our support teams are also briefed beforehand, because when you go live, you don't want to spend half an hour with support teams explaining what you were planning to do. So all of this can be planned together with the technical account manager in what we call the infrastructure event management process. So he will brief our support teams on beforehand on what is the go live, so that in case anything goes wrong, our teams can respond immediately. So these are the most important services, I think, in a nutshell. But if you have any other actually question around that, please feel free to log that in the chat box, or to send me an email afterwards. If we now look then at the AWS Partner Network, and this is the last slide, I believe. It's a pity that we only spent one slide on that, because AWS partners are actually a key part of our go-to-market strategy. We operate at such a scale that we are working very closely and transparently with all our partners in order to provide you the best experience. So we have two types of partners mainly. We have consulting partners and we have technology partners. Consulting partners are there to provide you, obviously, some consultants on AWS services, but also implementation, architecture work, maybe even managed operations. So these are typically system integrators. What you know as system integrators, maybe with some additional services as well. Technology partners are mainly partners that have built solutions that are pre-integrated and tested with AWS services, which are available on the AWS marketplace, and which you can actually incorporate in your AWS architecture or platform. All our partners go through certification processes. The consulting partners have also what we call competencies programs. So, for example, we have partners that are specialized in big data. We have other partners that are specialized in call centers or in artificial intelligence. There are a lot of different paths in the competence programs. You can find online, and it's public information, the competences of all our partners. So if you have worked in the past with a specific system integrator and you would like to continue, please check their competences before just engaging with them. It's very important to look at that. We pay a lot of attention to that. In order to be certified as a partner from AWS, they need to show that they have enough people with certifications, that they have use cases, that they have in these use cases, of course, that these use cases were successful, and that we could talk with the end customers, that they have sufficient resources locally, that they are sharing and working together with the AWS team. All these things are actually assessed in the partner certification programs. So we are transparent, as I said. So if you have certain partners you prefer to work with, please feel free to share. We will guide you, and we will tell you whether we believe they are the right partner for what you want to do. In the other way around as well, we may suggest some partners if you don't know any. It's an essential building block in the whole go-to-market strategy for the cloud. So this leads me to the last slide, which is saying one thing, and that is that whatever we do, it is driven by customer needs, by your needs. So if you have certain objectives and certain ideas, please share them with us. We would like very much to work together with you in achieving those, in thinking together with you on how to achieve those. And if needed, we will involve more resources within our company. We can involve partners, and we can involve our product teams. 95% of our services and features are actually driven by customer needs. In that sense, we are quite different from other companies. We don't look at competition. We only look at you, our customer. So before we move to the Q&A from the chat box, a few other things. As we said before, we will share you the slides in PDF. So we will also share you the recording. You will also receive a survey, and we very much appreciate your feedback on the survey. It helps us to improve. And we will share you some links, as you can see here. So there are some links to general concepts that we have introduced today. There are links to services. There are also links to EC strategy documents or to the use cases that are public. So now we can move to the Q&A. Happy to address your questions. Let's see what we have. Okay. So I'm looking here at the questions that we have received in the chat box. The first question we have here is, how does on-demand fit with the EU procurement model? So if the capacity is not defined, how can it be budgeted yearly? So I think there the answer is that, well, Cloud 2 contracts can handle and is based on pay-as-you-use, but budgets are actually calculated differently. And so how we work today is that AWS and the Cloud Broker team from the Commission together, we help end users to build the business case, to estimate the costs. We have different tools to do that. And once we have a cost estimation, actually budgets are being defined in this way and are being allocated to Cloud 2 in that way. But the contract itself is actually based on pay-as-you-use. So for the second question, maybe Gaetan can take a second question.
Yeah, sure. So we got several questions about backdoor clause or the possibility of the US government to access your data. So it's a complex topic. I will not enter into details now, but for those of you that are interested, I propose to have a dedicated session on this with one of our security experts. What I can already tell you is that we are probably referring to the Cloud Act. The Cloud Act doesn't mean that local laws can be bypassed and that the US government automatically get access to your data. So the Cloud Act defines a framework and allows cloud provider to challenge the request. So we have a legal team in place taking care of this, but the local laws are always applicable and needs to be respected. Now, don't forget that as a customer, you have the possibility to select the region in which you want to store your data. We also provide you a lot of security tools to protect your data and encrypt it using your own keys. So now, like I said, if you have concern, please send us an email and we can go more into detail with pleasure about this.
Okay, and then we have a question for Marilena, but Marilena can unfortunately not access here the panelist on the tool. But she asked me to just take this question for her. So do you plan similar initiatives like this webinar for other cloud service providers on Cloud 2? So the Cloud Broker team, C1 from Digit, can suggest this to other cloud providers and to arrange a similar type of event. Yeah, I think that's quite straightforward, actually. Gaetan, you have another question that you can?
Yeah, what's the difference between DPS, Cascade, or competition? So DPS, like I said in the presentation, it's a dynamic purchase system. So it's like any procurement procedure, except that during its life, other suppliers may join if they meet the published criteria. So if I use DPS1 as example, the European Commission launched a first mini competition with a list of technical criteria, and all cloud provider meeting those criteria were able to answer. As I said in the presentation, AWS has been awarded this first mini competition, meaning that there is no frame contract in place with AWS. Now the Commission has and will launch other mini competition with different technical criteria, and every cloud provider has the opportunity to register, so even new cloud provider, and they will be allowed to answer, meaning that at the end, it could be, and I think that's also one of the objectives, that the Commission has multiple frame contract in place with different cloud provider. So it will not be a cascade, so like there will be a kind of first cloud provider, yeah, every mini competition is different. So as a customer, I think, and yeah, Marilena is not there to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you will be able to select the cloud provider of your choice, assuming of course that it has been awarded a mini competition. So I hope I'm answering that question correctly.
Okay. Then I got a question on application management services. So is there a provision for application management services? Also, what about third parties that we contract to manage applications deployed in the cloud? How is this supported? Actually, Cloud 2 is not addressing the applications part. It's about the infrastructure and the platform part so far. So we have, like Gaëtan presented, 4 DPSs in Cloud 2. So DPS 1 is for the cloud services from a cloud service provider. DPS 2 is for professional services, including managed services or managed operations. But these services, these managed operations are for the cloud infrastructure. So I don't think that it's foreseen for the application layer. Now, saying that, if you have a contract with a third party managing your applications on-premise infrastructure today, you can use that same contract to manage applications running on AWS as well. I don't think there's an issue from that perspective. We still have a separation between the application layer and the infrastructure layer. This split, of course, can change over time depending on which type of AWS service you want to use. But Cloud 2 is actually so far about the cloud service infrastructure and about professional services on this infrastructure. It's not about the application layer so far. I think if you want really more details on the roadmap of Cloud 2 in this regard, that you can check that with EC Cloud Broker. Yeah, we are running out of time now. Yeah. So we have some other questions as well, but I guess that we will take them and then answer them individually afterwards. So thanks a lot for your time. And feel free to share your questions if they pop up afterwards as well on the mail that you can see in the presentation.
So thank you all, and happy to help you if needed. So you have our contact details. Thank you, and have a nice day.